The click of the key in the lock was sharper than usual, a metallic shriek cutting through the suffocating silence of our apartment. It was almost midnight. Gloria, my wife, burst through the door, a manic giggle escaping her lips. Her usual composed demeanor was replaced by a wild, almost reckless energy. Her eyes, usually so soft, sparkled with an unsettling glee. "Late meeting," she chirped, the words laced with a disingenuous cheerfulness that grated on my nerves. She smelled of expensive cologne, a scent utterly foreign to her, and to our modest life. I'd known for months. The late nights, the hurried phone calls, the subtle shift in her demeanor, all the insidious tendrils of infidelity had woven themselves into the fabric of our life. Months of gut-wrenching doubt, of sleepless nights spent staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the painful truth. I'd been a fool, clinging to hope, to the belief that my Gloria, my rock, my best friend, wouldn't do this to me. But that laughter confirmed everything. My carefully constructed plan had been brewing for weeks. It wasn't about violence, not about some pathetic display of macho anger. My revenge would be far more devastating, far more exquisitely crafted, a symphony of calculated destruction that would dismantle her world brick by painstaking brick. On the kitchen counter, amidst the usual clutter of mail and bills, sat a single, plain manila envelope. It was innocuous, almost invisible against the backdrop of our daily chaos. Inside, nestled amongst layers of meticulously folded newspaper, was a meticulously crafted document, a complete and utterly damning dossier on her affair. I'd spent weeks, agonizing weeks, collecting the evidence, discreetly following her, monitoring her phone calls, with a legally obtained warrant, of course, accessing her emails. The evidence was overwhelming. The text messages, the hotel receipts, the photographs, a chilling chronicle of her betrayal. I had every detail, every lie, every stolen moment meticulously documented and presented in an irrefutable narrative. Her laughter died in her throat. The manic energy drained from her face, leaving behind a mask of pale terror. She saw the envelope. Her eyes darted to me, a flicker of fear replacing the earlier bravado. She reached for it, her hand trembling. I didn't stop her. Her breathing hitched as she unfolded the newspaper, revealing the meticulously crafted document. Her eyes widened, first in disbelief, then in horrified recognition. The meticulously organized details slammed into her like a physical blow. The casual, almost affectionate tone I'd adopted in my report, detailing the intimate specifics of her affair, amplified the cruelty of the truth. I hadn't made it sensationalist, I had made it brutally factual, stripping away the romantic lies she had woven around her betrayal. She read the names, the dates, the locations. The meticulously documented timeline laid bare the extent of her deception. Her face contorted, a grotesque mixture of shock, guilt, and terror. The color drained from her lips. The manic energy was gone, replaced by a horrifying stillness, as if she was witnessing her own demise in slow motion. When she finally looked up, her eyes were empty, devoid of all the bright, vibrant life they once held. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, the manila envelope clutched in her shaking hands. The laughter was long gone, replaced by a deep, guttural sob that ripped through the silence of the apartment. I watched her, my heart heavy with a cocktail of grief and vindication. It wasn't the catharsis I'd expected. There was no triumphant sense of justice, only a profound sense of loss. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been a stranger all along. The next few days were a blur of frantic activity. The dossier wasn't simply a record of her betrayal, it was a meticulously planned campaign of consequences. I'd strategically leaked anonymous copies to relevant parties, her parents, her employer, even her closest friend. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Her prestigious job, the one she'd always bragged about, evaporated. Her carefully cultivated image shattered into a million pieces. The man she was having an affair with, a married man, no less, was exposed, facing the full wrath of his own family and social circle. Her parents, who had always adored her, were heartbroken and utterly disgusted. Their once prized daughter, their perfect image of success, was now a pariah. Her once vibrant social life withered and died. I didn't enjoy watching her world crumble. It wasn't a feeling of pleasure or triumph, but rather a sickening sense of finality. It was the shattering of a dream, of a shared future that had existed only in my mind. The legal ramifications were inevitable. I initiated divorce proceedings, and the process was swift and brutal. She fought, of course, desperate to salvage what little was left of her life, but the evidence was insurmountable. The court proceedings were a mere formality, a punctuation mark at the end of a tragic story. The day the divorce papers were finalized, I didn't celebrate. I felt nothing but an emptiness that threatened to swallow me whole. My revenge had been complete, devastating, and utterly effective. But the victory felt hollow. I had destroyed her life, but in doing so, I had destroyed a part of myself. The price of my revenge was far higher than I could have ever imagined. In the aftermath, I moved out of the apartment, leaving behind the ghosts of our shared life. I sold everything, cutting all ties with the past. The pain lingered, a constant ache in my chest, a reminder of the dreams we'd once held, the life we'd once shared. The process of healing was slow, agonizing, and filled with days when the crushing weight of grief threatened to consume me. But amidst the despair, a small flicker of hope began to glow. Hope for a future where I could rebuild my life, where I could find happiness again, not just despite the past, but because of the lessons I had learned. My journey towards healing had only just begun, but I knew, with a quiet certainty, that I would find my way back to the light. The path was long and arduous, but I would walk it, one step at a time. The laughter had stopped, but the quiet strength within me had begun to grow.